Iamaleava.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, we are loaded up. Welcome to the program. If you're on board already, thanks for making some time for us, or when you are making some time for us, we greatly appreciate that. Hit the like and subscribe button. Let's bring some more people in here because we've got a lot to kick around on the program today, including a recent anonymous poll. And I kind of love these, but I kind of don't. Among prospects, has some very interesting insight into Josh Heupel's recruiting style. So that's incredibly strong. Also, we now know what William Inge and Darrell Sims will make, the replacers of Brian Jean-Marie and Jerry Mack on Tennessee's coaching staff. What does that tell us about the previous pair that are now in the NFL and at Michigan, respectively? And on a personal note, I find that Alabama firing radio broadcaster Eli Gold is pretty disgusting. We'll discuss that a little bit later in the program. College football playoff discussing 14 teams. Wait a second. Caleb and I disagree on this a lot, but this might be one that we actually do agree upon. Caleb, how are you, sir?
I am good. How are you, Dave?
I'm good.
For anybody asking what I was doing, I was off screen for a second. I was pushing down my French press so I could pour my coffee. I have my French press down here with me. So
you have your French. Okay. So by the way,
yes.
I don't know that it is official. And Travis firing Eli Gold was indeed terrible. Yes. And he actually came out and said, I thought you said would indeed be terrible. So it has indeed been terrible. The poll question yesterday still garnering some interest as Shane Beamer has done quite a good job in his foundation of being a goofball, but nobody can take it from Eli Drinkwitz, who he won the poll yesterday, biggest goofball, beat out Lane Kiffin. It wasn't even close. Shane Beamer was second, but people still have some thoughts on Shane. So what's our poll question today, Caleb? Is we'll put that on our YouTube page and let people take advantage of that before we get to today's tough question about a guy named Nico. What's today's question?
So let's go with the poll question of how many teams do you think should be in the college football playoff? We'll go 12, 14, 16, or less than 12.
Okay, so less than 12. And then you go 12, and then you're going how many?
14 or 16. If you think there should be more than 16, you don't deserve to ever watch college football again.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say more than 14.
Okay, wow.
Because there could be some people out there that would love the 32 model, which would give you a whole new round, I would think. Let's put
You're
it out
more
there.
sauce than Steve Sarkisian was back in the day if you're doing that.
That's right. Yeah. I could see an argument for it. To me, we're going to agree on this one. We're supposed to disagree as much as we can. I guess that's what the kids say to do in the narratives of talk format. But 12's good. 12's good. I think you're getting to the point where a 4-loss team has a good chance of making a college football playoff is a little silly. That's losing a third of your games. But who knows what the NFL might have to say about that. It's time for today's tough question, and it's brought to you by
Iamaleava.
No, it's not. It's brought to you by our good friends at City Heating and Air Conditioning.
Hey now.
Oh, as we get to today's tough question right now, I bet you thought that was going to happen immediately, didn't you, Caleb?
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Couple notes on the message board. Yes, French press. I didn't know that was a coffee reference. I thought Caleb was lifting weights off to the side. And Derek says Dave and Caleb need to make a side bet, a Frohawk Dave Caleb Bowl cut, haircut challenge. I did that once before for charity. It didn't look good. Let's get to today's tough question. It's brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning and our friends at the Hemp House. I'll tell you more about both of them here momentarily, but I'm just going to let you set this thing up. Right off the top, could Nico Iamaleava's presence give the Vols favorable treatment from college football? I think I know what you're saying, but I want to ask specifically how he might help in how Tennessee is viewed this upcoming season. What are your thoughts on that, Caleb?
I think Nico Iamaleava could give I think we will see this after the Chattanooga game, and I think we'll mostly see it after the NC State game. That's going to be the one where everybody's talking about Nico Iamaleava, and we'll see it after the Oklahoma game. I think he's going to ball out in all three games, and what I think is going to happen is he's going to turn into the most exciting player to watch in college football at that point. And people can pretend this doesn't happen. Guys, it happens. College football, like every other sport, is a TV show, and they're going to favor the more entertaining players. You see this in the NBA all the time. Dave, how often do stars get the most preferential treatment in the world?
Well, they get to sit out when they want to. I mean, they get incredible preferential treatment.
Well, I mean preferential treatment from the refs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, they get preferential treatment across the board.
Yeah.
I think you would agree, though, it's not going to be as pronounced as it is in the NBA. Correct?
Well, actually, I think it's more pronounced in football. It just doesn't seem as pronounced because the stars are so more in your face. But the Chiefs got a ton of preferential treatment from officials throughout this playoff series this past year. I mean, they did not have one holding call the entire playoffs because the narrative of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce mattered. Now, I don't think there's blatant cheating. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the refs are sitting there like, let's, rig things in favor of a team. But I think they naturally, subconsciously will favor teams that have more entertaining stars. Tennessee's about to have the most entertaining star in college football this year. And I think because of that, subconsciously, you will see them get preferential treatment from officials. You'll see them get preferential treatment from, I would say, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. And I'll say this, you will see them get preferential treatment in court when the lawsuit that Tennessee and Virginia are filing right now is going through the courts during the season. People can pretend that judges and justices and court people always go by the letter of the law. They don't. They kind of go by an emotional feel. And there will be some judges that may not even be Tennessee fans, but are college football fans that are like, this Nico guy is just too exciting to pass up. I don't want to be a part of punishing Tennessee while Nico Iamaleava is there.
All right. A lot to unpack there. I want to start with one of the things you said that'll help Nico immediately in officiating. Officiating is so bad that I have trouble predicting it. So I basically just chuck that out the window. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad for or against Nico. I just think it's bad. My other thoughts are he's the young kid and that he's going to have to prove himself. Now, once you're seen around for a full season as a starter, I think you have and this is a highly intelligent kid. He's going to have a working knowledge with the refs. He's not going to talk to the refs the same way your backup offensive guard would. I mean, there's going to be interaction there. So he's going to be even better as time goes along. Now, with the college football playoff, I think that is a huge factor. Brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. But it comes with the good and the bad. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. So when the college football playoff, the good is if you're 13 or 12 and they have a decision to make and the other team doesn't have a superstar, let's say they're Iowa, like this past year, you're going to make it in because of your superstar. The flip side, something happens to your superstar and he gets banged up late in the season, you're Florida State. But I do think odds are that Nico, his presence, his playmaking ability is going to have a huge effect on the college football playoff decision if it comes down to Tennessee is 12 or not. I believe they will go out of their way to get Tennessee and a Nico player in there in the 12 team. There's no doubt in my mind. You?
No, none in my mind whatsoever. They want Nico Iamaleava is going to be such a star. They want him in there. and you can't not put him in there if you're on the fringe. There's no way they do that. And you're right. It's very similar to now. This usually I want to say this. They're on NCAA tournament lock teams, but Dave, let's be honest. There have been top 5 NBA draft picks on NCAA tournament bubble teams, right? Yes. And those bubble teams always get in, right? When the top 5 draft pick is on your team and you're a bubble team, you're getting in the NCAA tournament, aren't you? Every single time.
And we're not dealing with 4. We're dealing with 12. It would be a lot easier to manipulate. And we saw what happened with Florida State when it got manipulated, where they didn't want, again, we could debate whether or not they should have been in. But with 4, it's tough to have much wiggle room.
It is.
At 12, you got a lot of wiggle room. I'm sorry, if you can't get to be unanimously considered, or at least overwhelmingly considered one of the top 12 teams in the nation, you shouldn't play for a championship, period.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think of somebody like, again, let's go back to Texas A&M in 2012. They lost 2 games. There was serious consideration to put them in the national title game. And quite honestly, they should have been in there over Notre Dame. And it should have been a rematch between Texas A&M and Alabama over Alabama and Notre Dame. But they chose the path of least resistance, but Notre Dame, who was undefeated and when Notre Dame hadn't beaten anybody.
Yep.
You don't think there was some serious consideration to make Texas A&M the first 2-loss non-conference champion in the BCS national title, though, because Johnny Manziel was there and he had just beaten Alabama and he just won the Heisman?
Yeah, wouldn't stun me whatsoever. I think that is a real possibility. Now, as far as Nico getting officiating calls, do you really think that's a thing for Nico? And before you answer that, I remind all of our business owners out there that Apex Apparel is where you need to go. YourApexApparel.com, YourApexApparel.com, or call Tyler at 865-919-3001. Spirit wear for a school or group needs, embroidery, promo products, all that you need. So you think Nico gets a benefit from officiating just by being Nico in game 1 versus Chattanooga?
No, after game 1, after September, when he's putting on a show, and no one's going to be. I think you and I both agree he's going to put on a show in September, right? And he's going to be so much fun to watch.
I almost feel sorry for the mocks already, because you know that you also know it's not just him. You know, Josh Heupel is going to be motivated to put up a 70 spot. I mean, now, if I put the over under at 59.5 points at Tennessee scores against
I'm going over. I'm going over. Like, how many times did they cross 60 with Hendon Hooker? That was like a regular with these type of games, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe you're nice to Chattanooga because they're an in-state program and they're nice and all that, but I mean, they just don't have a lot of physical ability right now. They're solidly coached, but that game is going to get very out of hand very quickly. All right, let's take a look at our poll question here momentarily. We ask you, how many teams should be in the college football playoff? Less than 12, 31%. 12, 44%, 14%, or I'm sorry, 14 get 0%, more than 14 get 25%. So more than 14, that's an awful lot of teams to be in the college football playoff. Are we ready for 32 teams? I don't know. Maybe.
That's so insane to me, guys. I mean, I hope nobody really thinks that.
I could go 32 action. I'd be all right with that. Let's get to 4 Downs, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Tennessee's coaching changes have been made. We think that's all of them. Let's take a look now.
4 Downs, brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
All right, William Inge to make $55,000 more than his predecessor, Brian Jean-Marie, the linebackers coach. Darrell Sims to make $150,000 less than Jerry Mack, the running backs coach. These numbers are curious to me. Now, they're a little bit lopsided because I'm sure that Jean-Marie and Mack, if they wanted them to stay, I'm sure that they would have gotten somewhat of a raise. But what do these numbers tell you? And let's go ahead and get it started off with Cooper Mays. Coop, what do people need to do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. Coop here. First down.
On the surface, what do these numbers tell you?
Well, obviously, given that math, for those who are questioning, that means Tennessee saves a net $95,000 with these two staff changes.
Okay.
It'll go up to $400,000 for Darrell Sims in a year, at which point they will save a net $45,000 rather than 95. What it really tells me is, I think, because I'm actually going to look at William Inge first. The way they opened the checkbook for him, I'm not so sure they didn't nudge Brian Jean-Marie out the door to try to get him at this point. I think when they realize, here's what I think happened. Jerry Mack left for Jacksonville. This is my theory. This is my conspiracy theory right now about Tennessee staff. Okay.
And let's remember, Jerry Mack, just like a lot of coaches, wants to go to the NFL just because it's the NFL and not college football. It has nothing to do with Tennessee or Heupel.
Yes. So my conspiracy theory about the Tennessee football staff changes from Jerry Mack to Darrell Sims and from Brian Jean-Marie to William Inge is this. Jerry Mack left to go to the NFL, which is natural because the NFL, like you said, is a better job for running backs coaches. Tennessee made a hire.
There, I think he was kind of encouraged.
Oh, I'm going to who was encouraged. Tennessee made a running back coach hire, realized they could save a lot of money with Jerry Mack going to the NFL. Once they realized they could save a lot of money, they realized they could open up the checkbook to get a better linebackers coach than Brian Jean-Marie. So I think they encouraged Brian Jean-Marie to entertain the Michigan job so they could go get William Inge because there was a win-win with William Inge. That's what I think.
So that's what I was going to ask you on second down.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Thanks, Coop. Brian Jean-Marie. Now, let's switch it to Darrell Sims for a second.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right, here's my theory on Jerry Mack. You got Justin Williams-Thomas. You got Cam Seldon. You've got all of these guys that have come in that are highly regarded that have not developed. And you start thinking about the list, and it gets pretty significant. There was a blown pass protection in the Citrus Bowl. That was Dylan Sampson. There was one that was not. I think there's real question about Jerry Mack's ability to coach pass protection. And when you have all of your hopes and dreams taking snaps this season from a guy named Nico, you don't want him taking a lick off a guy that comes clean off the corner. I think Tennessee wants to get a lot better in pass protection from the running back position. It shouldn't be that hard, but asking around about it like I did, it's not just an effort thing. But I don't think he brought out the best of his players in that regard either. So I think Sims is an answer to a concern they had about Jerry Mack. And I'm not being that guy, Caleb. I hope you know this. I'm not being that guy that says, oh, he's gone like a prospect. He committed elsewhere. He's dead to me. I don't care. I mean, that's how I read it.
You know, I never thought there was much coaching to pass pro, but you might be onto something because Jalen Wright and Jabari Small were very reliable pass blockers for Tennessee. What do they both have in common? They played under Jim Chaney and that offensive system before Josh Heupel got to Tennessee. Jim Chaney coaches up pass pro for his running backs because he doesn't have any screens in his system. I don't know if you know that Jim Chaney doesn't believe in the screen. His playbook doesn't involve screens, meaning it's very crucial for running backs to pick up the blitz. Yes. And so he coaches that religiously. So Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, fine with pass pro. Dylan Sampson, there is not a Josh Heupel recruit at running back yet that has been reliable as a pass blocker for Tennessee.
There hasn't. I mean, you're right. And
yeah.
And Cam Seldon, I mean, this isn't just people. There were a lot of people outside the program that I thought were saying too much about Cam Seldon last spring, that he was going to come out and be a star. I didn't see that happening. Running backs have to make that transition, which they usually do pretty quickly. But I'm talking about people inside the building that thought he was a real player. So why didn't he develop into a real player as the summer went on, as you got into the fall? Why are we waiting now to see what he can do? If he is that ready to go, it almost has to be pass protection, doesn't it? At least he would have played more in the Citrus Bowl, right?
Well, with Cam Seldon, you mean?
Yes.
I think Cam Seldon, I mean, this is the other part of running back coaching. worst vision I've ever seen for a running back. He's got Trent Richardson vision.
Okay. I think we make a mistake sometimes, you and I in particular, of placing too much on natural instincts with running backs. There are some keys to read. I mean, and I think we also, and you reference this too, we maybe make it seem too easy to pass protect. If you'll notice, Tennessee shifts its running back from one side of the quarterback to the other quite a bit. So there's reads that are going on. I think we've maybe devalued what a running back, I was just thinking about this big picture last night. Maybe we've devalued what a running back coach can bring to the table because it seems so easy to bring to the table. Randy Sanders, who you and I would agree was not an elite offensive coach, could handle running backs just fine. But Tennessee hasn't had running backs handled just fine. So when I went back and looked at this, I'm wondering if they just gave him the door.
Dave, that's really hard for me to say, though, because Tennessee had the most athletically gifted running backs in the history of man on their roster in the 90s. I mean, Jamal Lewis is – what type of coaching do you have to do
I
for
agree
Jamal?
with you. I agree with you, Caleb. It is absolutely the base of what you should bring to the table. It's like telling an employee that they have to wear a shirt to work that day. You know, I'm not saying it's difficult, but I think somebody forgot to wear their shirt to work on certain days. That's my point.
You're saying
that it was that bad.
By the way, that's like, Dennis Rodman forgot his shoes to practice one time, and it was against
I know
LA.
Shaq showed up to practice naked. And
oh, he did? I didn't know
it was a big
that.
pass. I'm not practicing that day. Hit the like and subscribe button if you don't want to see Shaq naked, because I don't. Well, you'd never get over that. Yeah, I just think it was that base. I think it was that base level. And listen, I don't blame you for wanting to go and coach in the NFL because it's easier, but doesn't that say a little bit about his direction in life and where he is with Jerry Mack at this point? He wants things to be a little bit easier.
Well, he was considered there was like a 40 under 40 that they do every year of assistant coaches under 40 who are the next rising star at head coach. And Jerry Mack has been on the list 2 years in a row by ESPN. So, but I mean, you're right. It's possible. Like, let's think about it this. Do you want the grind of becoming a head coach? Or would you just you're right, maybe take the easier road out, collect the check, go to Jacksonville and be like, hey, I'll limit my potential to become a head coach, but I'm working less now.
Well, don't forget this either, that the pension plan for coaches in the NFL is tremendous. If you can make it 5 years as a player or coach, when you get to be about 45, you're getting a pretty good chunk of change, like a full-time salary for the rest of your life. So that could be in his plans as well. I don't want to question his work ethic, but there is a difference between being a Nick Saban type of worker and a Derek Dooley type of worker. There are variances in between, and I just wonder if you want to go to the NFL so quickly before some of this NIL stuff gets worked out, and it will. The calendar is going to get fixed to some extent. I just wonder if you want to move so quickly. Are you the hardest worker on the staff? Are you the guy that – I'm not trying to throw dirt on somebody just because they left, but it does make me wonder a little bit about what you want to accomplish with your goals. The championships, or is it just a career?
There's another element to this too, though, and which is if you're a family type of person, because I'm just going to tell a personal story real quick. When I got out of college, my goal was to be a local news TV anchor for a big city, preferably we move back home to Memphis or do it in DC, whatever. I knew that you had to, this, Dave, you're in journalism. To do that, you have to start in Nowheresville. I have never heard of this place. I can throw a stick and the whole town will hear it, USA, right? And you have to do it making sweatshop labor, all right? And you have to climb the ladder slowly over 10 to 15 years. I kind of and I started doing that, actually. I started at a small town doing that. And then about 3 years in, I kind of made a judgment call of, I'm looking to get married soon. I'm looking to, settle down with my wife. I don't want to do this. So yeah, I switched up my career path a little bit. I'm happy. I ended up with you doing this. And so I'm very happy about it. But I decided not to climb that career trajectory because it was just going to be too much for me when I had somebody I was trying to settle down with.
Hey, so you're preaching to the choir. You're talking to that guy who worked too much and misses some of those evenings with his children. So we're both in the same mindset space. It just took us a different path to get there. And listen, I got no problem if a coach wants to go to the NFL and have a family life and not have to worry about a kid getting arrested or a kid fell in a math test or something stupid. I mean, there's so many stupid things that college coaches have to worry about. I'm not going to knock anybody for wanting to go to the NFL. I think that Mark Emmert, the former NCAA president, should still be ashamed of himself because the calendar is so incredibly bad that you've got coaches that want to go ahead and bolt. So I'll ask you for fourth down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Simply put, Tennessee's staff is better than it was, much better than it was, worse than it was, much worse than it was. 60 seconds, Caleb's answer. Imagine having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And in delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
Hey now.
There you go. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Hit that like and subscribe button. So let me ask you, Tennessee's coaching staff is much better, worse, much worse than it was a week ago before they had two coaching changes in the assistant ranks.
I'm going to go better. I won't go much better because we don't know Darrell Sims versus Jerry Mack. But I think we can definitively. But I think you can say that.
You say that because I feel better about the other one. Go ahead, finish your point.
Well, no, I think you were right that maybe Jerry Mack was nudged off, but we don't know how good Darrell Sims will be. Is what I'm saying. We're not sure he'll be good. We know verifiably that William Eames is better than Brian Jean-Marie. Like, we know that for a pretty solid, their track records make it clear. Look, I'm sorry, but you're right. Running backs and linebackers both underachieved in terms of development. The difference is,
what are the chances that both were pushed out the door?
That's where I was going to get it. You've convinced me. I think both may have been pushed out the door, at least nudged.
I mean, Jean-Marie, I know you like Sharon Moore at Michigan a lot, and you think he's going to have success there, correct?
Yes, I do.
I love it when I put words in somebody's mouth and then ask them if it's correct. It's always nice. I know you don't like certain people, but anyway, you like him. But let's face it, that's a less stable job than coaching for Josh Heupel right now, isn't it? I mean, Moore could tank.
Absolutely, he could. Absolutely, he could. I agree. That's a less stable job. I think it's very possible they were nudged. Also, let's put it this way: they were nudged for two reasons. There's a net improvement of the staff, I think, already, and you're saving money. Now, okay, it's the University of Tennessee. You're saving $95,000. That is chump change. But hey, Dave, you tell me, $95,000, that might be enough to sway a recruit on the NIL trail, right?
Could be.
I mean,
some of these guys were getting, and we're going to get into this a little bit, we're getting like $5,000 just to go on a visit.
Yeah.
By the way, VFL TexX says, I don't know if that means you're an astronaut, is listening from Lafayette. We love Lafayette. That's a beautiful area of town. On our poll question, how many teams should be in the college football playoff? There's talk about more than 12. Less than 12, 20%. 12 gets 47%. That's the lead. 14 gets 10%. More than 14 gets 23%. This is officially the spot in which the NCAA has gone too far if they go past 12. That's my thought, and we're going to discuss that here momentarily. First, I do want to reset the poll question if we can. Which coach would you connect with most if you were a recruiting prospect? Is that what we want to do?
Yes, and don't just view this from orange-colored glasses, guys. Think about everything.
You're asking a lot. Okay, you're asking. Do we want to do everybody but Josh Heupel?
Okay.
So you think
outside of Josh Heupel?
Okay, you think about it. And then coming up on the program, Josh Heupel praised as one of the nicest coach from anonymous prospects that were out there. This is a great piece. And Josh Heupel is such a nice guy. Too nice? I don't think so. We'll discuss. He's
a champion of life, Dave.
He's a champion of life. He is not.
That's crazy.
All right, 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Ah.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren, asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Welcome back. Is Josh Heupel just too nice? We'll discuss that. And also, we're going to reset the poll question. The poll question ends with this: how many teams should be in the college football playoff? It appears as if there's a push for more than 14. A late push there. Maybe I should have let it go. But 46% say 12 is just fine. 21% say less than 12. Now 21% more than 12. 14 would be the perfect number, that according to 9 people on board. So we're going to reset that. Caleb's going to set that up. What do we got coming up, Caleb, before we get to Josh Heupel is just too nice? Oh, there it is. All right, guys. What coach would you connect with the most on the recruiting trail if you were a prospect? You put Josh. Everybody's going to say Josh Heupel.
I know, but I'm trying to see if someone cannot do this with their orange-colored glasses. So we'll see.
I don't think that's going to happen, and I had you turned down. Sorry. All right, I think we're going to need to repost that. It's going to be all of Josh Heupel.
Give it a second. I am challenging Vol fans to not be so delusional about like everything Vols for once.
I think you're asking a lot. But okay, so who are our other choices then?
Deion Sanders. Come on, Coach Prime recruiting you would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Like,
cool. Yeah.
Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney.
Okay. I would lean more towards Kirby because I'm all about what can you do for me professionally.
I would lean towards Dabo because I think nobody looks out for their players more than Dabo. Even if you disagree with his takes on NIL and the transfer portal, I think Dabo probably is more principled than any coach in college football.
If I was a parent, then I would make that decision. If I was an 18-year-old kid, then yes, But I think you bring up a really good point. So this was on The Athletic, who, yes, they're still in business and doing some good work. This was asked of a particular unnamed prospect. Who were the nicest coaches you met during the process from schools you didn't sign with? Okay. A lot of the guys were called nice guys. One was Coach Hype. He said, I want to say between Coach Hype and Dan Lanning, who's Oregon's coach. Coach Hype, down-to-earth guy. He's really nice off the field. He's a nice guy, good person. He actually cares about his players. He knows his players. His players can come to him, and I see that with my own eyes. That's strong. So when we talk about the culture and NIL, what is actually the strongest between the two? Because I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I think the strongest between the two is not NIL anymore for Josh Heupel. I actually believe that it's his culture with his program.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Is that crazy for me to say that, Caleb? Is that too strong?
No, I think you're absolutely right about culture. And I think Josh Heupel has established culture very well. And I think part of it is his personality. I'll let you give your take, but I actually have an interesting take on why Heupel's established such a good culture at Tennessee.
Okay. Brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals? Our good friend Caleb won the Fire Opals, and he was able to get them to his wife on Valentine's Day, which was cool. And he and I have got some plans to get together and do some listener parties. We'll get Caleb in here somehow. But I'm going to answer this really simply. I think it's just because Josh Heupel's a good dude. I don't think he went into his coaching career saying, should I be a dictator like Nick Saban or should I be a good guy like Dabo Swinney? I don't think he went into it like that. I think that's just who he is. What about you, Caleb? Brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. Again, the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition. What say you, Caleb?
I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible because it usually it sounds really bad, but I don't mean it bad. Okay. Who's ever seen clips of Josh Heupel when he played quarterback at Oklahoma? I remember him. You remember him, right, Dave?
Yes.
Remember him in interviews?
Yes.
Did he not, during that time, did he not come across you as a total meathead?
He came across to me like he does now, and that's a guy that doesn't want any part of the media, doesn't see the importance in it, which we could debate that. But
super jock.
To me. Yeah.
That's what I mean. He was a total jock. Like he was this dude from North Dakota, South Dakota.
Here's a weird comparison. I'm not talking about play. He kind of came across a little bit like Casey Clausen as a player.
I could see that, who was also a jock in every way possible. Like, yes, Josh Heupel was the ultimate jock. Okay. Typically, jocks aren't that bright. Josh Heupel just happens to be pretty smart. You know what I mean? And I think that it was like, so I think Hype as a jock almost feels like you're it almost feels like he is your quarterback when he's in the locker room. You know, the quarterback that's like the great teammate with everybody?
Yep.
He comes across as that more than he does the coach. And I think you kind of feel that energy with him more, even though the quarterback is a leader too. I mean, Hendon Hooker was an incredible leader. And so, but yeah, I think that's why he comes across that way. And, you know, we talk about, you know, there's obviously generational differences culturally from coaches who played in different coaches. Philip Fulmer played in the 60s, connected well with the players of the 90s, but you didn't think he was like one of the guys, right? He was a head coach, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he thought he was one of the guys. I remember him asking Eric Ainge one time and said, my wife's gone for the weekend. We can bachelor it up together. And I did not know what that means. And I still don't know what that means, but it was a funny line.
Wow. I did not know that. Okay. That's a little weird thing to say.
I think he was joking.
Wait, okay. Here's my question, Dave. Here's where it's a little different. Could Fulmer talk to his players in the 90s about Tupac albums if he was asked? You think he could in any second?
No, I think they would think that would be silly.
But Josh Heupel probably could talk to his players today about Drake albums, couldn't he?
Yeah, is that the popular one now? Is that the guy?
Drake, Lil Uzi, Kendrick Lamar, like any of the, one of the.
I don't think he can. I think he can speak about Kendrick Lamar, which you and my daughter may have me won over with. I don't think he can speak to all those guys, and I don't think he has to. I mean, from visiting with Coop and Jacob, Kendrick Lamar isn't the most popular guy anymore.
I know. I'm old saying that. Okay.
Well, I mean, but I'm just saying everybody has something different. It's like it used to be rock. I just want to say this real quick. It used to be rock, and then there were different genres of music. Now they're just different genres of music. There's rap and rock, and it's all kind of equal footing. People listen to a vast majority of different things.
And the Gen Xers were the first to really listen to that vast majority. Josh Heupel is a Gen Xer, so he probably, I guarantee you, Josh Heupel really doesn't separate genres that much. Fulmer probably did. Fulmer probably liked old rock and country. Am I right? That was probably Fulmer's taste in music.
Yeah, I would say that. But again, when I come back to this culture thing, I think the important thing to point out is, when did you think Butch Jones wasn't going to make it because he was a sociopath?
I never knew he was a sociopath, and I didn't know the inner workings. I was out on him. I'm ashamed to admit it. I rode the Butch Jones train for a long time, defending him, even though I didn't defend what he did, but I said these aren't fireable offenses. I didn't say it was a fireable offense until the 2017 Florida game. That's when I said that's the most worst, ridiculous coach game I've ever seen. And then a week later, he lectured the media, that whole shy tuttle lie. That was the moment I'm like, he's a sociopath. He's a terrible person.
In Tennessee's hirings I was caught totally unaware of Lane Kiffin and what happened there. But with Dooley, Butch, and Jeremy Pruitt, I was told no more than a year, sometimes even with Derek Dooley, it was like, this guy's not wired right. He just went and told the drywall guy to take a break and is doing the drywall outside of his office. I was like, okay, well, that guy's not very bright. You have to delegate, don't you? Drywall would be something that I would delegate.
Well, I don't know if he's not very bright, but Derek Dooley tried to micromanage. He didn't trust anybody to do anything outside of him, right?
Right. Well, bright. I just use that word. But
yeah,
I knew he was a goofball. And then I heard stuff about Butch Jones. I heard stuff about Jeremy Pruitt. The point I want to make is that I haven't heard a single negative thing about Josh Heupel. And I'm saying that being completely forthright. The stuff I heard about the previous coaches, it wasn't strong enough for me to report. I knew it, and I was like, don't get too excited about that guy. But I didn't report anything on it. My point is, with Josh Heupel, we're entering year 4. There has been enough time that something would come out, and basically what we've come up with is maybe he's made some questionable personnel decisions at quarterback. There is no deep-seated character flaw that I'm aware of. I haven't heard of anything. I think that's a good place to be. Click that like and subscribe button. Caleb, I haven't heard of anything.
I'm going to nitpick, but there are two that I think should be brought up. I think the quarterback issue was a character flaw because he did not give Hendon Hooker a fair chance to win the starting job because he wanted to be right about Joe Milton because he was that arrogant.
Okay.
I think that's the other character flaw is not addressing the Cooper Mays injury when he should have. And he cost Tennessee the Florida game because of that.
Okay. At the end of the day, though, if that's your bad marks on your report card in 4 years, you would take that, right? That's an A or A- at the worst, right? As a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I will give you, with Butch Jones, I heard questionable stuff about Butch. I just kind of dismissed some of it, I will admit, but because I'm like, you hear questionable stuff about every coach like this, but you're right. I had heard by this point in Jones's tenure, I had heard questionable stuff. I mean, it was this point in Jones's tenure where that whole sexual assault lawsuit happened, and Butch Jones called a press conference, and the press conference said, this is bad because it hurts Tennessee in recruiting. I'm like, read the room. Dave Hart's trying to address Tennessee having a real issue that people are complaining about with protection of women on campus, and you say this hurts us in recruiting, and you think that's going to be good long term?
I love our listeners / viewers, because my point was not to make this nitpicking Josh Heupel, which it's the term Caleb just used, but we kind of have. And so I want to be fair to those that are showing some objectivity, probably not on the poll. We'll get back to that. But Dylan says Hendon was a Pruitt recruit. We all saw what Pruitt guys were doing. It's very true. That's fair. I think talent evaluation is a slight concern. And then you have Travis saying defense isn't prioritized. That bothers me. That's fair as well. I think you're going to have most of the time your well, let's look at Ethan Davis, for instance, the tight end.
Yeah.
That's a body that with John Chavis there and the emphasis they used to put on defense plays defensive end instead of tight end because it's easier to learn, right? But yet there was no question. There's no question he was playing tight end. There was not even a conversation.
I mean, to be fair, they did convert Jason Witten to tight end from defensive end. I don't know how John Chavis felt about
this crew. And then the guy from Europe.
Yeah. Oh, Emmanuel Okoye.
Yeah. He's a tight end.
Yeah, but true, but they're so loaded at defensive end. Like those guys wouldn't play if they were defensive ends.
Okay, I think that's anyway. Point is, I think we're nitpicking. I think that Josh Heupel is in very good stead. I want to check on that poll question too, because I have a feeling that you would relate most with Josh Heupel. Caleb, you want to repeat that poll question, but don't give me the answers yet?
Yeah, it's orange colored glasses.
The worst poll question. It's the worst poll question ever. What is it?
Which coach would you connect with the most on the recruiting trail if you were a prospect?
The answers brought to you. Hit that like and subscribe button. We're represented by Banks and Jones. Hey, Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. All right, so let's go to the poll question.
Got my T. Scott Jones impression on.
Represented by Banks and Jones. I like that. So what do we got with your terrible poll question?
I don't want to admit that you were right. I shouldn't have put Josh Heupel on there. Wait. But there's some competition. Josh Heupel's at 75%, yes. However, Deion Sanders is at 17%. And Kirby Smart's at 8%. And where is the love for Dabo, guys? Why don't y'all love Dabo Swinney? Okay.
Dabo's like the nice guy who nobody likes anymore.
Why does he not get the treatment of a coach who won 2 national championships?
You know who it was? Dabo's the sober guy. Okay. So you go to a party, you're in your 20s, and he's the nicest guy in the world. And you love talking to him at the beginning of the night. But towards the end of the night, his career, he still starts sober and everybody else is drunk. So he's no fun to talk to anymore.
Oh, he's also that guy that like gives you all that political talk when you're trying to get drunk, probably. You're just drinking and he's like, well, you know, alcohol comes from this and that. And it's like, shut up. I just want to drink.
It's a poison, technically. You do know that.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Use the term I'm not going to use on the message board, but I think goober would be a good way to put that.
But this is so unfair. We treat him like a goober and not like a 2-time national champion.
I know.
It's not wild to me.
And he's a good, faithful Christian man by all accounts. I mean, he's had 20 years. He's had 20 years to tear him apart, and we haven't done it.
You wouldn't think that Dabo is you're right. You wouldn't think he's a champion, but he's right now in terms of resume. You have to put him number 1 in college football above Kirby Smart because what he did at Clemson is more impressive than doing it at Georgia.
I hadn't even thought about that. That's a whole nother topic. How about tomorrow? All right. Do you want to reset our poll question without
high? Right, I'm going to go.
I like 3 coaches. Let's get a suggestion. Let's get suggestions from the message board. What 3 coaches or 4 coaches? What coach? What's one coach that if you were a prospect and you could have anybody visit you, you would want that guy to come in?
And don't say drink a beer with. Don't say drink a beer with because we can't put Steve Sarkisian on there if you're going to say have a beer with.
Terrible. That's terrible. Chat Mortgage, congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier with Chattanooga Mortgage. Go to chatmortgage.com. It's right down below chatmortgage.com. That is an awful thing to say. So who do we want on the poll on our message board? We've got
Eli Drinkwitz.
No. We're talking about
Kiffin. Yes. Lane Kiffin.
Okay, yeah. That's where we're going here. So
All right, let's throw that one out there. Okay,
we're not talking about current coaches on the staff. So we got Lane Kiffin, and then I think Dabo is worth it and I think that Kirby Smart should. Dylan, we're going to do position coaches tomorrow. That is actually a great idea.
Wait, can we edit? Can we edit this, or do I have to just start a new poll?
You just have to start a new poll. Your last one was so bad it broke YouTube. You just wouldn't let it go. I knew. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I knew that one was going to be all Heupel. Pittman gets a vote. All right, so let's do.
We're not doing Sam Pittman. Okay.
Yes, we are. That gets a second.
No, we've got our 4. I'm keeping the 3 we had. Keeping the 3 we had, and I'm adding Lane Kiffin.
Well, who's the other 3?
The ones we just had: Dabo, Kirby, and Dion. Dion was second.
Drop Dabo for Pittman.
You can't drop Dabo for Pittman. Dabo, guys, I am not going to disrespect Dabo like y'all do. He is a 2-time national champion. Okay.
All right. Well, we got to drop somebody. Drop Dabo.
Well, yeah, we're dropping Josh Heupel.
No, I want to get Pittman in there. Okay, fine.
I'm not putting Sam Pittman in there, Dave.
Okay, no Pittman. We won't go Pittman then. But Travis says I love Sam Pittman. Dan Lanning too. We want to get Dan Lanning in there. Do we have a limit though of how many we can put, right?
Yeah.
See, everybody's like drop Dabo, just drop Dabo. No, you want to keep Dabo. All right. So
yes, I'm keeping Dabo because I have a principle that I think Dabo. This is my principle. You guys are so unfair to Dabo. Okay. Y'all are so unfair. He's the best coach. He has the best resume in college football right now with Nick Saban retired. Dabo Swinney's number 1 in any coach ranking. Okay. And you're not serious if you put Kirby Smart ahead of him right now.
Okay.
Same number of national championships, and Dabo did it at a harder place to win.
But who's going to win more in the future? I want my son to. Okay. Your question's fine. Leave it up there. Who are our 4? Our final 4?
Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, Lane Kiffin, and Deion Sanders.
Okay. And this is who you would want in your home on an official visit, not to play for. Okay.
Who you would connect with the most, yes.
All right. And can we reset it? Because I'm still getting Josh Heupel getting 75% of the vote.
I'm resetting it now. I'm resetting it now. Here we go. All right, it's up. It's up now. Show Dabo. I'm voting for Dabo just to stick it to you guys. I hate you guys.
All right. So Tennessee actually was a big part of the piece that The Athletic did, which I thought was very well done. And it was about visiting with anonymous recruits. Very good piece put together by, I thought, The Athletic. And it suggested that the NIL isn't the ultimate difference maker. I don't want to change our tunes too quickly. Didn't we say just a year ago when you and I started doing this on a regular basis that NIL was the difference maker that could get Tennessee above Georgia and Alabama at the time? Are we dismissing that too quickly? And I wonder, too, when I was reading the column, are the prospects perhaps dismissing NIL a little too quickly? Do they just feel like they deserve it? Like that's just part of the game? Well, I hate to tell you, 4 years ago, it wasn't part of the game. What was your take on The Athletic downplaying NIL and what they could do in recruiting, what NIL could do in recruiting?
My take was, I think NIL is not what we thought, which is this. We thought NIL was going to outweigh everything else combined. It doesn't. NIL is another factor. So when you talk about recruiting players, a few things come to mind. The coaching, the success of the coach is a big one, right? The success of the program at the time, your prospects are going to the NFL. Playing time's a big one, right? If you can play early.
Agreed.
And also, most notably, I would say location. Like a lot of kids like to stay close to home. We talk about all the time with LSU. What is it? The LSU players, LSU doesn't have to leave Louisiana to get recruits, at least pre-NIL. Those things are all factors still. Those things are all factors, and they still equally compete with NIL, is what I think. Because if the NIL difference is, if you're a Louisiana kid, let's just talk LSU for a minute. If you're a Louisiana kid, LSU offers you $80,000 and you don't want to leave the state. Tennessee offers you $90,000. Well, you might sacrifice the $10,000 to stay home, won't you?
I mean, certainly. I don't think that's it. One guy said that he gave up, he left about 100,000 sitting on the table because he wanted to go to the school that he wanted to go
His
to.
dream school.
Yeah, it was 500 compared to 400,000. So to me, the guy played his cards pretty good. Money should never be a factor in our lives, but a lot of times at 17, when we're thinking about, hey, let's take this a girlfriend out on a date or a car or something like that. A lot of times you are going to think of money. But if your pursuit is more along the lines of winning championships and being the best player you can be, I believe you're going to have a better result. I also believe you're going to enjoy college life a lot more at some programs other than others. And I think Tennessee is when you're going to enjoy your time there, perhaps more than a Georgia, which seems a little bit more like a college football factory.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think NIL more than anything I think you have to be competitive, but I don't necessarily think that as long as you're competitive, I think you can be in the running with other factors in recruiting.
Some other interesting takes. Who were the nicest coaches you met during the process from schools you didn't sign with? Sonny Dykes and Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Dykes very family oriented. This person says, I really like Georgia coach Kirby Smart, ex-defensive backs coach Fran Brown, Miami defensive coordinator Lance Guidry, executive director Dennis Smith. Florida's Billy Napier is a really good dude. I don't know that being a good dude on this list is any better for you. I mean, pretty much everybody has been named. Miami's Mario Cristobal, Penn State's James Franklin. I guess they're expecting some coaches to go in there and say, wow, this dinner you made me taste like pure garbage. I mean, how are you not a nice guy? To me, it's about being a genuine guy when you walk in the room. You still have something to sell, and that's your school. I don't necessarily care if Josh Heupel is nice. I want him to be decisive, and you want him to be very directive in his approach to who he signs and who he doesn't. Caleb, nice doesn't really matter that much.
No, nice. You just need to be honest. I mean, guys, Dave, you can say this because he was a sociopath, as you always say. Butch Jones was nice on the trail, wasn't he? He told you what you wanted to hear, and then he lied to you. I mean, I think players respect honesty. Now, you've covered recruiting more than I have. Most prospects aren't stupid enough to fall for the nice sociopath, are they?
A lot did with Butch. Until that was a point I was trying to make earlier. Until Butch, it came out that he was sociopathic, he still had success.
But you had to know he was sociopathic. I think, like, for instance, I don't think Lane Kiffin lied a lot on the recruiting trail. I don't think he lies a lot at all. He doesn't. He seems very direct, honestly. You can tell me you know him more than I do, but Lane Kiffin seems like, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to coach you. Period. End of story.
That's true. It's very true. I think most of the people are like that we're talking about, the successful ones. I don't think Kirby Smart necessarily cares about you after. Does Josh Heupel care about you after? I don't know how to really look into his heart, Caleb, but it's been long enough now, the point I was trying to make earlier, that it seems genuine to me. That's both on and off the record.
Yes, I think so too. I think Heupel is genuine with that. I think Kirby Smart is genuine. I think Kirby Smart's I've having watched him a little bit, I think he's an honest guy. I'll tell you who actually was a bit fake in his recruiting, I bet, early in the day, because I saw it with the media. Guys, go back and watch old Nick Saban interviews when he was at LSU in the early 2000s. He was so much nicer to the media than he is now because he realized he didn't have the cachet to be such a, as you would say, jackwagon, Dave. And he got a lot meaner when he realized his true self showed as he had the cachet to show his true self, quite honestly.
Some of these visits are bizarre, okay? These are visits that just didn't happen before NIL. So they said, which school do you think spent the most money on your visit and why? One person says Penn State. I went to an unofficial visit, but it was like an official visit. They picked us up in a Mercedes-Benz truck, took us to the game, gave us a tour, food in the works. Michigan had 3 taco food trucks. Said he'll never forget it. UCF took them to a seafood restaurant, Top Golf. UCLA said they went to dinner a couple of times on visits. It was Mother's Day weekend. They did extra stuff for my mom. Remember, you used to just be able to spend one night on a visit. They apparently did the whole weekend. Texas had a big recruiting weekend with a Lamborghini and Rolls Royce out on the field. They took us to a good steak dinner right after. So
are we sure that wasn't when Eric Dickerson was being recruited back in 1981?
Maybe. This is not SMU. This is Texas.
Eric Dickerson took a car. No, he took it from Texas A&M.
Yes, he did.
He went to SMU.
My question is, I think Josh Heupel is painted as the offensive guru that is ahead of the curve in NIL, but should we look at Steve Sarkisian? There has to be a perfect combination between Lane Kiffin, the salesman, and Nick Saban, the program builder. Could Sarkisian be closer to that than we at first thought? You're not a big Sark guy. I'm beginning to be won over.
I think Kirby Smart is that. I think Kirby Smart's the salesman and the program builder.
Oh, now I think Kirby Smart's on another level. I'm talking about a lower level.
I think he's the best. I think he's the best recruiter in college football. I'm not just that he's at Georgia, by the way. I think Kirby Smart cannot recruit anybody. I could potentially see Sark being a good recruiter. Sark just seems a little awkward to me, though. Kind of like Lane. He still comes across to me as a little bit awkward.
He seems less awkward to me than Lane.
Maybe less awkward, but he still comes
getting somewhere towards the middle. I think the perfect coach just probably retired. I think the closest thing to being the next perfect coach is probably at Georgia. So we're talking about everybody else.
Well, I think Kirby Smart's actually a more perfect recruiter than Nick Saban is, if I'm being honest. Who do you think you would connect? Who do you think would be the better combination in your home? Kirby Smart or Nick Saban? Take Nick Saban's legacy out of it. It's Kirby.
It might be Kirby.
It's Kirby.
They don't.
Also, by the way, the best who you would really connect. Let's call it what it is. The coach you'd connect with most in your home is Ed Orgeron. That dude probably knows how to talk to recruits and their parents when he's not drinking.
No, I would think so. Although there was a certain prospect whose grandmother asked him to leave on Sunday night when he'd been having a little bit too much fun. He's Caleb.
I said when he's not drinking.
Yes. Well, that was one of the times. He was a very good receiver at Georgia. Would have been good at Tennessee. Should I share his name? Maybe I will. Right after this.
I know who it is.
He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Off the Hook Sports. Coming up, Bama just decides to fire their play-by-play guy just because. Please explain that to me. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Also, being nice in recruiting. Does that help? And college football playoff already wants to expand before the first playoff has been held. Stay tuned.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Haun at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
We believe every day is a good day to be thirsty. With free samples on draft and lots of flavors to choose from, Tennessee Cider Company prepares a hard cider that's easy to enjoy. Some say it's the signature cider of the South. Others say it's the cure to your craving. They all say you'll savor every sip. The area of Gatlinburg has so much to offer, and so does Tennessee Cider Company. Add us to your list for shopping and fun experiences. You'll be glad you made the trip. Find our cidery in the Mountain Mall on the Gatlinburg Parkway. Sip smart. Sip the good stuff. Sip Tennessee Cider Company. Thirsty yet? Doors open at 10 a.m.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones. Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, thanksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
One of the things that I didn't find on this list by The Athletic, when they talked about NIL versus culture, which would you rather be a part of? NIL, which I think players just expect now. I don't think I think it's like having pads. It's like having practice sleds. I just don't think that's a big thing anymore. So when I look at NIL, I don't think that's a big factor. One of the things we didn't see mentioned though in this piece was the relationship that the mom could have potentially had with said recruiter. Heard of several instances of that being a situation, but nobody says, I went to this school because my mom dated my recruiter. Nobody says that. That's not a good reason. And perhaps they're not aware of that.
Was there a certain former Tennessee head coach who was good at that?
I don't know. But when the coach when your mom continually says you should go to this school and wait, I've got to take this call, then you might wonder a little bit. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I want to get you on board now. And then the Eli Gold situation at the University of Alabama. So Eli Gold, and these days are gone. And I want to go back to the John Ward days. And a lot of the games, Eli Gold, the former voice of the Alabama football program, longtime former voice, a lot of these radio broadcasts were your connection with the team because not all games were televised. That's why people turn down the volume on TV and they listen to John Ward. Now, that doesn't happen nowadays, but Eli Gold is one of the last for that. And I know a lot of fans have been excited by the fact that Alabama is falling apart. Hit like if you're one of those. Be sure and subscribe. We greatly appreciate that. But I gotta be honest with you. I've waited, and now the waiting is done. You have a crew that is taking, I believe, the Philip Fulmer approach when he was athletic director and cleaning house, a little bit like Dave Hart, too, who's asked to clean house because they had so many associate athletic directors. But this is where you cross the line to me. You don't bring Eli Gold back, to say maybe a couple of $100,000? That's your play-by-play voice. So you can pay a guy that's 30 years old, you can pay him $50,000. And he comes out and he has to say publicly, I'm not retired, I wasn't fired. Or I'm not retired, I was fired. And then he fought cancer last year. Caleb, how do you fire somebody that's been the voice of your program for 20 years and fought cancer last year, and the fan base rallied behind him? What is going on at the University of Alabama?
Yeah, so Eli Gold has been their play-by-play broadcaster since 1988. The way Alabama reported it was that they had agreed to part ways, so he won't return in 2024. He comes out and says, we didn't agree to part ways. They wanted me gone, basically, was what he said. They're not bringing me back. Here's what I think is happening. In an age of NIL, Moneyball is going to be the way to go for a lot of people. You are going to see a lot more cuts to things that many fans may have been passionate about. But
are you telling me they're cutting Eli to add a prospect? Is that what you're going after?
Yes. I think that is, how much is Eli Gold's salary right now, would you say?
I'm going to complete guess. $250,000 a year.
Okay. And you're saying they're going to hire somebody at 60, 190 grand.
Probably 70, 80. So let's say that they save 150.
That's 2 prospects every year on the recruiting trail. But guys, I get it. And before any of you guys try to correct me, I know schools don't pay players on the recruiting trail, but guys, it's all in the same pot because the schools make their decisions based on booster money and donor money. That donor money is not going to come in the way it usually does because they need that donor money to be spent on players with advertisements. So look, I got to be honest. I think that's what this is about. And I think I've told you guys for a while now. Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne, I can tell you what's happening. He's very upset with the lack of NIL support he's getting from his boosters. I think he's very upset with it. And I think he's trying to sit there and make a note to say, guys, I'll have to nuke this whole thing if you don't pony up some money. Because I need NIL money.
Well, maybe that's it. And maybe they get a little bit more off him, but it's not worth it. On the message board, I believe it was bet it hurts their fan base. Yeah, I think it does. I think you're used to hearing Eli. You fought for him to get back in the booth last year with the cancer diagnosis. I love him. I think he's just a great guy. I hate to see how that would be connected, but perhaps it would. What would have happened if John Ward had been fired, Caleb? During,
you have to understand that Tennessee is a little more unique than Alabama, and this is why John Ward is such a big deal. And he listens to the show, so I'm going to mention my dad, who told me when I was growing up he would listen to Tennessee sports on the radio when he was young, living in Memphis, when nothing was on TV, in the 60s and 70s. That was John Ward's voice. Tennessee is so spread out as a state. It's 3 separate states, 3 separate regions. The voice of John Ward was the only connection you could have to the school if you lived in Memphis, really. Or if you lived in Nashville, even growing up.
Sure.
That's not necessarily the same. That's not necessarily the same power that radio broadcasters have in other states. Because John Ward was the only thing to connect the whole state of Tennessee, which is, for anybody who knows, as everybody who lives in Tennessee knows, is 3 separate states. I mean, they have 3 stars on the flag because
I knew
3 regions.
Yeah, but I knew who Larry Munson was at Georgia. I mean, and that's because he's the play-by-play guy for Georgia that retired.
Yes, but he did not have his reach wasn't as significant as John Ward's reach was. I mean, where's Georgia? For the longest time, until about 10 years ago, Tennessee's biggest city was Memphis, the other side of the state. How else could they connect to Knoxville outside of John Ward in the 60s and 70s? The biggest city in Georgia has always been Atlanta.
But I've been driving home from Starkville and heard Larry Munson. I mean, that was a big one. But point being, is that just done? Are we just done with that? Nothing against Bob Kessling and the job he does or does not do on the broadcast, but are they just meaningless? Is that era gone? I mean, I have trouble arguing with you if you tell me that nixing a play-by-play guy, I think you should find the money. But if you're going to tell me it brings you 2 prospects, then I have a hard time arguing not to do it. But I think the goodwill that they burned getting rid of Eli just cost them more money than they ever would have gained out of his salary in NIL.
You're right. That's very possible. There could be some boosters very upset about it. Look, guys, here's something that's happening. I am spitballing. It's conspiracy theory Caleb time. I got another one today because I know y'all love conspiracies. What if there are a few boosters who don't like Eli Gold and a few who do, and some were saying, I'll pony up more money if you get rid of Eli Gold? I'm just throwing some things out there.
No, that's not. There were a few people who didn't like John Ward.
Yes, but booster power wasn't as important as it is now.
No, I agree. But no. I'm just saying John Ward was about as likable as any play-by-play guy you could have. I thought he was down the middle, but you could tell he rooted for the team that was paying his salary. Larry Munson was, we've got to hunker down. We've got to do this.
We stepped on their faces with a hobnail boot. Yeah.
It was just over the top. But there were some people that didn't like John Ward. I don't know if they arrange a coup to have him fired, but
John Ward had the fun sayings for Tennessee specifically because that's what you do when you're covering for a team. But yeah, John Ward was the most professional broadcast. Look, I thought every broadcaster was like that. Honestly, it was like John Ward. I was shocked when I first heard, and I remember being like 14 and hearing Larry Munson do the whole broadcaster when Georgia beat Tennessee, and he said we. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you never say we for who you're covering. That's like journalism 101, isn't it, Dave? You don't say we.
We finished up, you and me, not we, me and Tennessee. You and me finished up a show one time. I hopped in the car and I wanted to go watch I think it was the Georgia-Alabama game. And I'm so focused in on Tennessee stuff, I really don't see what's happening. So I just want to find the score. And I found Munson's broadcast. I knew it was a field goal game. I didn't know who was leading. The whole time we drove to this Dave & Buster's, actually, I didn't know the score. With John Ward, you would have known the score. The national championship is clad in big orange.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I totally agree. It's John Ward would say who's leading. Now, I know there is there's a little bit of an art to not say who's leading, but give the score or something like that, and then go to commercial break because you want people to keep listening. And so you don't want them to just wait on the score. You want them to stay tuned in. But yeah, no, I agree. A lot of broadcasters would do that. Now, I will say that, again, I don't know where this is going. I mean, we are in an here's the other problem, Dave. We're in the age of turning down your TV to listen to the broadcast is dead. And the reason that's dead more than anything is because the radio broadcast is always going to be much quicker than the TV because most people are streaming now.
Yeah.
So, you're going to hear them broadcast a play that's a minute in advance. And so that was kind of a big problem. That became a problem actually with digital cable in the late 90s. Digital cable, particularly after the freak out over Janet Jackson, decided let's do a 7-second delay of anything that's live. And
I still have never been a part of I watched that Super Bowl by myself and my phone just absolutely blew up. My wife and I got a chalet. I'll never forget the Janet Jackson Super Bowl. Everybody else probably has a good memory. It was just me and my wife by ourselves with our kids upstairs asleep. All right. College football playoff is going to a 12-team playoff. That's what we'll start to plan our vacations around now. But they're already talking about a 14. Come on, Caleb. This cannot be at this point already. They haven't even had a 12 yet.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, Tracy Morgan. How serious are they about 14?
I need your what the H. Because this is not a what the H. This is a what the F. And we can't say it.
Do you want?
That's hot.
Okay. We'll just go with that's hot because I can't find it. What do you got?
Oh, wow. Okay. It's not hot. It is not hot at all. Yes, they are going to discuss going to a 14-team playoff. And I swear I'm going to riot if they do because they are ruining my sport. Josh Pate had a great tweet the other day. You know what it is? You know what he had, Dave? And this is true. He basically said this. A bunch of average college football fans let a bunch of people who don't know college football fool them into thinking what's best for the sport. And this is what this is, okay? Because college football is an amazing sport run by a bunch of average people. And when I say average, I mean they should not be in positions to make decisions for anything. And that's where college football is at. This is next level stupid. And here's what it is. The SEC and Big Ten, and this is what's going on right now. They're jockeying because they each want to have 2 auto bids, not 1.
That's hot.
This is stupid. They don't need 2 auto bids. The second best team in each conference is going to be going to the playoff anyway.
Let me ask you this. Do you think in 5 years that the college football playoff will be at 12, 14, 16, or more?
Oh, it'll be at 16. It'll be at 16.
I think it'll definitely be at 16. I wouldn't rule out 32.
And I'm going to tell you what's happening here. I told you guys that these conference commissioners are not that smart. And yeah, I'm putting Greg Sankey in there. I'm also putting Tony Petitti in there. Here's what's happening. This is actually really funny. Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti and Kevin Warren before Tony Petitti were so up, and so were all of these commissioners were. They were so obsessed with expansion, Dave. They were so all about expansion and expanding the college football playoff and expanding their conferences. You know what happened? They expanded so much, they rendered the need for conferences obsolete. So there is no need for conferences anymore. And now they're freaking out because guess what happens if there's no need for conferences? Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti don't have jobs. So what? So wait. Here's what they're doing. They are adding auto bids for the SEC and the Big Ten because they need the conferences to be so embedded with the college football playoff that you can't get rid of them because they know there's no need for them to exist.
I will bet you right now that Greg Sankey is the head of football for the entire NCAA, and that Tony Petit is not.
So you think that Greg Sankey is all about dissolving the conferences anyway because he knows he could be the commissioner?
I do.
He's ruining tradition in college football.
Oh, yeah, I understand. Let's talk about facts, not just how we feel. Okay, because I would be fine with. I think 12.
I gotta pour some coffee for this, guys.
I actually love the way they set it up. Surprisingly, with the buys, with the home games, I can't make it any better. So I'm perfect with 12. If you would have told me before they had 12, I would have said 8 or 16 because I didn't think about it being an uneven number, which I know that's still an even number, but it's not easily divisible by a bracket. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I wouldn't screw it. I wouldn't mess with it at all. I think it's perfect. I wouldn't mess with it over the next 20 years. Derek says, don't pose this. I might lose it, man. Derek, lose it. Go for it because 12's good enough. Don't mess it up to the point where you can lose a third of your games and you make the playoffs. Because how many games did we see in the NFL playoffs where a team had gone, they play 17 now. So let's say they went 9-8. Be in the playoffs. That's what you don't want. You want your best teams in the playoffs. And I feel like year in and year out, there are usually 1 or 2 elite teams. And then there's about 8 teams that could win a championship if they got a couple of breaks. Year to year. Those are my thoughts. Feel free to change those.
I'm with you.
That's why 12's okay, because you can have a Cinderella. But really, I would have been okay with 8.
So you're thinking just from the who's capable of winning the national championship. That's not where I'm going. I don't care if a team's capable or not. I think you should have to do the body of work in the regular season. That's why I never wanted a playoff to begin with.
Well, I'm definitely factoring yours in as well. I'm not discounting it. What you bring up.
So here's,
I mean, the fact that you hear so much in September about a sport that's just a month old speaks to your point. It's a very good point.
Yes, exactly. So Dave, there is one way you could get me on board with the 14-team playoff, but they won't do this. But there's one way you could get me on board. You ready?
Okay.
Every conference champion gets an auto bid. Limit the at-large bids. Every single conference champion gets an auto bid. All 9.
The opposite. I would do everyone is some sort of formulaic BCS bid.
That makes make the regular season matter. Make the regular if you do top.
Harris, you like it, don't you?
That's hot.
I know.
No, make the regular season matter. All 9 conference champions get auto bids, 5 at-large bids. I'm in then. I don't like at-large bids because I don't like 3 lost teams getting into the playoff. If you make all conference champions get auto bids, every regular season game still matters. Every game in September and in December matters. Otherwise,
time out. So you're okay with going to 14?
If you have all the auto bids for conference, every conference gets an auto bid. Yes, because in every regular season, here's my goal, Dave. This is my point. This is where I'm at. I want the regular season to matter as much as possible. I don't care about a playoff. I don't. I want whatever makes the regular season the most exciting, because the thing about college football that matters more than any other sport is that the regular season matters. Nobody cares about NFL games in September. Okay? Nobody cares about NBA games, period. Nobody cares about baseball games anymore because they have that stupid, is it 12 teams in baseball now? It's so dumb. They should have just stuck with 4 in baseball.
It's the worst because they have like the 1-game playoff.
It's so stupid. Premier League soccer, nobody watches it here, but everybody watches it elsewhere. You know why? There is no playoff in Premier League soccer. They just do a round robin and the team with the best record is the champion. That's the way I want it. Okay. Now I'm not going to get that, but I want the regular season to matter as much as possible. If you add 2 teams, but you give 9 auto bids, you actually increase the value of the regular season at that point because every conference game matters at that point. Fine. I can live with it. Fair. If you add 2 teams and those 2 teams are just 2 more at-large bids, so you're at 9 at-large bids now, that's stupid and it's dumb. And you're going to have 8-4 LSU get in one year and luck into the national championship game and win it. And it's going to drive me crazy because they didn't do what they should have done in the regular season.
Somebody on the message board completely agrees with me. It's brought to you by Don Self. Customer service still matters. Call 423-396-2126 or go to donself.net, donself.net. State Farm agent in the Chattanooga area. They'll take care of you when it's time to make a claim. You want that customer service. Everybody's shopping price, donself.net. You can get a great price and get customer service that's 40 years proven. I look at the entire playoff situation, and I wonder if somebody came to me, could I come up with a better idea than what they have? And for the first time in my life, I will say that I think the NCAA came up with a better idea than what I would have come up with, because it would have been an 8. And now they're already talking about destroying it. 8 would have been a perfect number. 12 works, where you can't lose 4 games in a season and make the playoffs. Now, Travis says if you're in the top 25, you should be able to play and compete for a title. Auto bids, rewards, conference play. I tend to be more along the top 12 to 15. That's the top 10% of the sport. Caleb, if we look at other sports, what percentages of the sports make the playoffs out of the team? 32 teams in the NFL. How many make the playoffs?
14, and it's too many.
It is too many. But don't think that college football doesn't see that and realize the money's the checks are still cashing. The money's still coming in, even though it's too many. And guys like us could nitpick their product. But don't be surprised if this one day, and we may be sending Caleb's newborn son here shortly to college on it, but don't be surprised one day if there's a 64 team playoff. Don't be stunned.
Dave.
I'm not saying Caleb, I'm not saying I like it, but don't be stunned.
And then you know what's going to happen? You know, Labor Day weekend when college football season kicks off and you always get that one big top 25 game like Alabama plays USC or something like that. Nobody's going to watch it.
I'm with you, brother. I'm not.
I mean, you're borderline at that already.
I mean, I'm telling you, I'm scared that this could happen.
It is. This is the problem. College football, and this is what Josh Pate said, and he's right. College football is run by a bunch of people who don't know who aren't embedded in the sport and don't understand the value of the sport. It is the most short-sighted thing. You're turning college football into NASCAR, and I keep saying it. You are turning the sport into NASCAR. NASCAR thought it could compete with the NFL regular season by doing the Chase Cup. All they did was devalue the Daytona 500. Hey, who watched the Daytona 500 this year? Who even knew it got rained out?
Yeah, who knows when it was? It was Monday at 4:00.
Yes, because that was the biggest event in NASCAR.
It used to be that was cool. Everybody'd get off work and you'd meet down at the local sports bar. Nowadays, NASCAR doesn't matter. There's a ton of reasons NASCAR is not what it once was. But I did think of the Daytona 500. I thought of you the other day, where if they go down those lines. The other thing they did is they made all cars look the same. Now you're making all programs look very similar in that they're all green. It's about getting NIL dollars. So I'm actually happy to see what we've heard, and that is there's more to it in recruiting than just NIL dollars. But if they can make more money, it's going to go to 16. It's going to go to 22. It's going to go to 28. It's going to go to 32. Don't be surprised.
But here's the problem. And actually, I usually don't try not to address the message board during the show, but I have to address what Smoky Mountain Red just said. NASCAR also tried to go after a fan base that didn't like NASCAR. You're right. What do you think college football is doing? This expanded playoff is all because fans of every other sport, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, whatever you want to say, college basketball, they're listening to fans of those sports who never loved college football that much. Is that fair to say, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, the mob mentality of all the other sports, of fans of every other sport who don't really care about college football, is affecting the decisions that people who run college football make. And that's what's driving me insane on this, is because the people who actually are fans of college football don't want this.
Okay, I trust our message board, and I trust Caleb's judgment, eye test, so to speak. So I want to get your thoughts on what I'm about to ask Caleb, because we're going to go one by one. So who won the national championship last year in college football?
Michigan.
Right. I'm going to ask you if these teams could have things break their way a little bit. I'm not saying a one-sided officiating day. I'm not saying 5 turnovers. I'm saying things break your way a little bit and you can beat Michigan and win a championship. So how many of these teams could have? Now, these are the teams in where is the final? can you pull up? I've got the coaches poll, and then I've got the wrong rankings here. College football playoff rankings. Okay, there we go. All right, so Washington. I mean, of course, there's no question that Washington could have played with Michigan, right?
Hey now. No, they could. No, they couldn't have, and they showed they couldn't have. They got blown out by Michigan. They didn't belong in that title game.
But you don't. But you are
no,
number two.
There's not a scenario where Washington. There is not a scenario where Washington beats Michigan.
Okay. Okay, this should be more fun than I thought. I think the fact that they got there and they were undefeated, I have no problem with them being there. Texas could have beat Michigan if Texas has a good day.
Say wham.
All right. I think they could have. Alabama.
Yes, because Alabama barely lost to them. They could have beaten them.
That's hot.
All right. Florida State. I know where you're going here.
They couldn't have beaten them with Jordan Travis.
Skip it. We'll just go ahead and skip that with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Georgia in at 6.
Yes, that's obvious. Georgia could have beaten them.
Ohio State. It's tough to say that, isn't it?
Well, they could have. They were close. They could have.
Yeah. All right. Oregon.
Nope.
Missouri.
Nope.
Penn State.
Nope.
Ole Miss.
Nope.
Oklahoma.
Nope.
LSU.
Nope.
I don't think so either. So how many teams could actually beat them on their best day? Did we come up with 4 teams? Mine maybe 6, yours maybe 3.
I'm at 3. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Those were the only ones that ever could have beaten Michigan on any given day.
Okay, I would take, obviously, I mean, we know what happened, but I would take Washington, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State going into that game or into that potential playoff
as a chance to win.
Yes, a chance to win and needs some help. I think I told you in September that Michigan was the best team, didn't I?
Dave, I got a question. Outside, you did. You were right. Outside of the 3 I named, Georgia, Ohio State, and who is it? And Alabama. Do you think Vegas would favor Michigan by fewer than 10 points against any other team that you just named outside of those 3?
No. Favor them by more than 10 points?
Fewer than 10. They'd be double-digit favorites against every other team outside of those 3.
Oh, yeah.
Vegas would make them double-digit favorites against every other team.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Now we've got some different thoughts on the message board. Texas, Ole Miss, Oregon, Mizzou would beat Michigan 50%.
That is what?
And maybe
what?
Maybe a little strong for you, but I'm not arguing with Ole Miss. I think Michigan.
Y'all are smoking crack, okay? Y'all are insane.
That's hot.
No, they wouldn't have.
Caleb Calhoun, before we get to the voice, I'll bid you adieu. Off the Hook Sports.